A woman who could light up any room came face to face with darkness and death. Elementary school teacher Cherilyn Hawkley is found strangled in her minivan in a grim Halloween murder that shocks the small Sacramento neighborhood of Granite Bay.
We've had to live with it for 22 years. But I think I'd want to know why.
Cherilyn's daughter Heather was just 14 when her mother was murdered, and her sister Melissa was 16. The pair has never talked publicly about the homicide that haunts them.
I've wondered who would ever do something like that, and who would voluntarily hurt Mom in any way.
Cops investigating the case at the time wanted to know the same thing, but they struggled to find a motive. Tests to determine if Miss Hawkley had been sexually assaulted were inconclusive. And it didn't appear to be robbery because Cherilyn's purse and other personal property were still in the van. Nor was there any evidence of jealousy or a romantic encounter with someone she might have just met.
She didn't live a risky lifestyle. She didn't put herself in dangerous situations. She didn't make bad decisions. I mean, she was a normal person living a normal life that something terrible happened to.
Police investigate a report of a stranger parked in a VW Bug outside Eureka Elementary the day Miss Hawkley disappeared, but it leads nowhere.
There hasn't been any evidence that that individual was actually connected with the crime.
Nor can police find any link to an unsolved murder of another woman, 35-year-old Cindy Wanner, who was also strangled in Granite Bay 2 years earlier.
The manner of death, the situation involving how they were found, where they were found, markedly different. Kind of the behavioral pattern of the offender different in both of them.
And detectives are almost certain Ms. Hawkley's killer was no stranger to her.
When the case first started, there was definitely a sense that it was probably somebody who at least knew her, somebody familiar with the area.
But they immediately discount one of two main persons of interest, Cherilyn's boyfriend. You believe he had nothing to do with this?
We haven't found any evidence that he had anything to do with it.
And the same can be said for Cherilyn's ex-husband, Royal Hawkley.
It was actually in Oregon at the time of the murder with multiple witnesses. We don't have any evidence that he had anything to do with it.
And the case goes cold for more than 2 decades, leaving residents of Granite Bay on edge to this day.
We've gone back and talked to teachers who are still teachers now, who were teachers then, and they've told us, hey, we tell new teachers, lock your doors, lock your classrooms, specifically because of this event.
I want my family to feel safe. They don't feel safe. They get worried if a car's out in front too long, and there's just no closure.
And Cherilyn's daughter Heather admits she's lived in fear that her mother's killer might come after her or someone else in their family.
It would be really nice to have this figured out and the case closed and the person convicted, because then I wouldn't have that fear that I so don't want, and I work really hard to not have.
Now, finally, cold case detectives Brian Madison and Chris Joyce of the Placer County Sheriff's Office think they could be close to solving the Halloween murder of Cherilyn Hawkley, thanks to mind-boggling advances in forensic science.
I think the DNA in this case will probably be the bridge between solved and unsolved.
The 2 detectives have returned to the scene of the crime for evidence that may have been overlooked and could now be forensically examined.
The van would have been somewhere maybe 40 yards off the road.
And they have already taken old evidence collected over the past 22 years, including the rope she was strangled with, and submitted it for fresh DNA analysis they hope will snare their man. And they are re-examining what they call the murder book. Tell us about the murder book.
Basically, it's thousands of pages in multiple books. I mean, it's every statement, every report, every newspaper clipping, every card ever sent to the department, every interview ever done.
Now we have the ability to incorporate scientific evidence into those statements to either contradict or corroborate someone's statement, which gives us the ability to say, you're absolutely lying. You lied to us back then and you're lying to us right now. Yeah, open that binder, see what's in that one. All right.
Detectives Joyce and Madison also revealed to Crime Watch Daily they already have a suspect they're ready to zero in on once the results of the DNA test come back from the lab.
I think I know who did this.
But they won't say anything more until they have the DNA evidence to prove it. So Cherilyn's murderer is in the murder book?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Look at Mom.
Oh, Mom looks so pretty.
For the first time, Cherilyn's daughters are feeling a sense of hope that their mother's killer will soon be caught. Do you believe justice is around the corner?
I think that it is very possible this time there is many different pieces coming together, and I'm so grateful for all of the detectives that have worked on the case throughout all of these years, and I think that we may have answers soon.
Heather knows their mom would share their gratitude.
I think she would be grateful that it's being looked at really closely again and that such great men are working on this case to help us.
And finally collar Cherilyn's killer and bring the Halloween ghoul to justice.
Andrea, the more I look at this case, the more I think I'm overwhelmed by the possibilities when it comes to who may be the killer.
Of course.
What are the detectives telling you about who might be the suspect here?
Well, you know, Matt, they don't want to say too much because they've been working on this case for a very long time and they don't want anything at all to jeopardize that. But I think it's safe to say that they do not believe this suspect is a complete stranger, and I do believe an arrest could be coming any day now.
Well, for the family's sake, let's hope so. Thanks, Andrea. And we will, of course, follow this story closely, bringing you the very latest, if and when there is an arrest.